Normalcy bias. Yes, people are talking and they're adapting to the current climate here in the West. And the word normalcy bias is rising. And I want to awaken you towards the gravity of what that word means. We're living in some kind of a experience, and I'm going to define this experience as the planetary karma. Okay, so you're going through life, and you have a destiny, and to get you into that destiny, things are happening to you. You grow up, you get an education, inside of your soul are programmed all kinds of things that give you affinities, talents, whereby the experiences of your life will lead you in a certain direction, and that's where you will professionalize yourself, and then you will do what you're destined to do. A little bit how that works. So whatever you're doing is a combination of generational blessings and will of creator. There is an element of free will involved. You can choose between good and evil. There are all kinds of options. However, we humans are subjected to all kinds of forces, whether that be taxation or, you get my point. That's not the point of this today's podcast, right? So you're trapped. You're locked up in something. That's the point I'm making. And every person is locked up in something else. You might be locked up in your private life. You might be locked up in a real prison. You might be locked up in your job, private life, family life, job, private life, family life cycle. You might be locked up in the destiny of your nation, or you can be locked up in the destiny of leading the West, collective of nations, right? So everyone has his or her purpose in this destiny here in the West. We're all locked up in it, right? So there is an element which is defined as birthright, can be acquired, can be lost, and this birthright forges a culture, a normality. And as long as the birthright is intact, ladies and gentlemen, people will do what highly intelligent people call normalcy bias, not in tune with reality because they're walking their quote unquote karmic cycles. And when their karmic energy depletes, when their story ends, they will wake up and snap out of something which is called normalcy bias. Yes. So we have countries, and these countries have cultures and normalities, and that is forged with the divine right to rule the land. And that divine right to rule the land has been given to individuals, bloodlines, and then hierarchies are created, and everyone plays their part of the dream in the civilization. And here in the West, some civilizations have ups and downs, but the United States is leading this destiny here in the West. And the United States is like Atlantis, it's sinking. Not all the nations in the West are sinking, but the other nations in the West just don't have enough birthright to keep the planetary dream which the United States is commanding intact. Whereby all of a sudden we have people showing up in the surface talking about philosophical concepts as if they are no longer connected. Because that's what we're talking about. What are you when you are no longer connected to the collective experience? Are you disconnected? No longer bound by the social dynamics? Are you socially incapable? Are you an outcast? Or are you released from something because that something is destined to be unbound, ladies and gentlemen? That is the intelligence behind those who use the word normalcy bias. When you still when you still have choice, when God is still evaluating if you're worthy and unworthy, You still need to make your choices before you arrive at that timeline where God increases your birthright or cancels your birthright. And when that happens, you will snap out of the normalcy bias because you will adapt to reality, or you will fall by the force of a reality that destroys you, ladies and gentlemen. And here in the West, the planetary karma, all these generational blessings, left and right, are running out. And this cultural bubble that keeps normality, the way how things go, slowly it's tearing apart. It's ending here, it's ending there. And the sense, the person who has the birthright to escape the time ghost, to escape the normalcy bias, when that person walks around in society and starts informing the other ones who are still bound by normalcy bias, with all the good intentions they have, they try to wake them up out of the process, but they don't have the jurisdiction nor the authorization to do that. The fact that we have people walking around here in the West creating new words like normalcy bias is for you a sign that the very fabrics of normality, of the existence, of the way how things go here in the West is evaporating. And the moment that sinks into your awareness, you might sit there and listen and go like, what about my family life? What about my professional life? Is that still worthy to Of course it is. That's why the normalcy bias is so strong. It's not, if you stop living, you will not find the solution. It's not meant that you escape normalcy bias. It is meant that you adapt your reality in such a way that it becomes constructive instead of destructive. And then normalcy bias will transform in healthy normality and no longer some kind of a hallucinating, arrogant, delusional, self destructive mode that the greater majority in control of democracy are under. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that democracy is evil. I'm just saying, at the very end of the cycle, it was once a sage who said that tolerance becomes the normality, ladies and gentlemen. This is what I want you to be aware of. Do you feel how powerful the normalcy bias is? When you soak the intelligence of people like me, and intellectually you understand where the destiny of the West is going, but the power of the normalcy bias is keeping your timeline intact, and the timeline of those around you as well. And they're not adapting, aren't they? Yes, finding out the truth can have a severe psychological effect upon your awareness. And that's why I'm bringing this information to you. Do not fear what happens when you wake up out of the bubble of normalcy bias. But yes, adaptation is required.